Hi friends, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. Today I finally got ready to film something because it has been ages. I am currently in the middle of editing my Agnes Grey reading vlog, which shall be coming to you very soon. But while that's not ready, I thought we could do just a little fun tag video because it's also been a while since I filmed one of those and I have actually been tagged in quite a few of them. I'm just the worst at keeping up with all of them. So today I thought it would be a good idea to film one of them, and I did ask my patrons for which tag they would rather see first. So today I guess I'm doing the 20 questions book tag. I think that's the name. And I was tagged to do it by the wonderful Victoria from the channel What Victoria Read. I absolutely adore her as a human being and as a creator, and I will of course link her channel in the description, as well as the original video, which I believe is from Jessie from Bow Ties and Books, so of course their channel will be in the description as well, and their video and everything. And of course, if you'd like to do this as well, just consider yourself tagged. Before we answer any of these questions, which I'm not ready at all for, I don't really remember what these questions are, but before we answer them, let's refill my tea. I am currently drinking, let me show you, some Irish afternoon tea, but as you can see, it is pretty empty already, so we need to fix that. Let's go to the kitchen actually and do that together, why not? Okay, I think we are now ready to answer these questions, which from what I was seeing, I think they have to do with some of your reading habits and also a few bookish tastes, I guess. So we'll see. Let's see what this tag has in store for us. And also, of course, I would love to know your answers as well. I feel like it is such a fun way to get to know all of our bookish tastes a little bit better, you know? So definitely let me know in the comments if you'd like to answer any of these questions. I would love to hear your answers. But so question number one is, how many books is too many books in a series? Oh, well, since I am planning to read The Wheel of Time, which has, I always forget, but I think it is 14 books plus a prequel. Is that it? Correct me if I'm wrong. So since I'm planning to read that series, I'm not sure I am the best person to answer this question. I think the longest series I've ever read had 7 books. And other than that, I feel like most series that I usually hear about or that I've read myself are trilogies. But I wouldn't say there's, you know, the perfect amount of books. I think as long as you can keep the story interesting and engaging, and as long as it makes sense for you to continue, as long as you have, you know, some more aspects that you can explore in order for everything to come together and make it for a very good ending, I think you can have as many books as you'd like. So I don't know, I'm not against having a lot of books in the same series. Of course that if it is shorter, you will probably finish it sooner, and it always feels nice to finish a series, doesn't it? But honestly, I don't think you can go wrong with, you know, more books than 3 or 4. It really depends on the story, I feel like. So I'm not sure if that answers this question, but yeah, that's how I feel. I don't think there's too many books. Sometimes I wish a few fantasy stories had more books. For instance, I did read The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon a while ago, and it is a fantasy standalone, so it is a very large book. I believe it was 800 pages, but in my opinion, it should have been split up into 2 or maybe 3 more books, because there was a lot going on there that I feel like it needed its own separate book dedicated to those plots and those characters. So I don't know, once again, it just depends on the story, you know. I wouldn't say I prefer trilogies or 5 books or 10. Just if I enjoy a series, I want to read as much as I can from it, as long as you're not just stretching it, which often happens, especially with TV shows. Yes. How do you feel about cliffhangers? I hate them and I love them. I guess that a lot of people could agree with that, right? Because I feel like it can be such, you know, a clever way to keep you intrigued in the story. But I also feel like they can be very poorly done, especially. Okay, I do not want to mention any specific examples because I feel like that can be a little spoilery. But once again, going back to TV shows, sometimes a season ends up in a very big action scene, or just a scene that you have been anticipating for a long time to happen, and then suddenly the season ends. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because then again you just, you know, keep getting interested in what's to come next. But if then the first episode of the next season, so the episode after the cliffhanger, just resolves everything in a second, I hate that. So what I mean is, and this also applies to books of course, I don't mind cliffhangers, although of course they make me feel all sorts of emotions, which I feel like is the point, but I don't mind them. What I do mind is how you then resolve them. That bothers me. And now you could ask me, well, what about those stories that simply end on a cliffhanger or with questions left to be answered? That also depends on the story. I feel like I'm the most awful person to be answering these questions, at least these first ones, because it always depends for me. It's like asking me if there are any tropes that I don't like. It depends again on how they're done. I don't think there's a trope or a type of cliffhanger that I think never ever works. It really depends on how the author does it, right? So I guess, well, if I had to give an answer about cliffhangers, about whether or not I like them, I would say actually I do. It is truly the resolution that usually can bug me a little bit, and sometimes some things are better if they're left to the imagination of the viewer or the reader who's consuming those stories. You know what I mean? So again, maybe a weird answer, but let me know what you think actually. That's very interesting. Hardcover or paperback? I love paperbacks with my entire soul. I do collect a few hardback editions of books, but usually I do not read them. They are really collector's editions, such as this beautiful books. Let me show you. These are the Seasons editions of classics. This one in particular is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. And this book is absolutely stunning, and I am so happy I have it. I have a couple more, you can see that on the back. They are beautiful. I love the design so much and I love owning them, but they are so stunning that I'm always scared of actually reading them. I will skim through them and look at the perfect illustrations, like look at that, oh, it's so beautiful. I will look at them and, you know, hold them and hug them, but actually take them with me to some place and read them? No. Maybe that's weird, but usually I just love reading paperbacks, and specifically floppy paperbacks. I mean, nothing is better than this. Can you see that? I just love this so much. I love floppy paperbacks, so if you're asking about my favorite editions to read, definitely floppy paperbacks. They're my favorites. Oh my gosh. This, by the way, is Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. Isn't it gorgeous? I absolutely adore these editions, and I keep trying to find more of them on thrifted stores, but unfortunately I haven't had much luck. But it is so stunning. Oh my gosh, I love it, and still need to read it actually, but yes, that's a perfectly good example. I mean, look at that. Oh, so stunning. Alright, okay, what's the next question? Favorite book? Favorite book? How can you ask that? Favorite book? I don't have a favorite book. If you know me, I'm terrible at picking favorites about anything really. If I had to pick a recent favorite, can I go with that? I'll go with that. If I had to pick a recent favorite, I don't know either. I'm kind of panicking right now. It would have to be, of course, either the Lord of the Rings series, which, I mean, yes. But if we're talking standalones, it's probably Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. That's the first one that comes to mind. It was one of my favorite books of last year, and I absolutely love it. It's beautiful. I do want to read more books by James Baldwin, so if you have any recommendations, please let me know, because that book, I don't know what it was. I think I read it at the exact right time, you know, and it just hit me so much. I think it's beautiful, it's emotional, it's gripping, it's heartbreaking, it's so raw, and I absolutely love it. And it is such a tiny book. Let me show it to you actually. Why am I talking about it and not holding it? Here it is! Oh my god, look at that! It's so tiny! Oh, I love it. So yes, this is definitely one of my recent favorites. I absolutely adore it. It is gorgeous as well, and I don't know how an author can create such an incredibly moving story in such a short amount of pages. You know, it always astounds me what authors in general can do, what the power of words does to us. It is incredible. So yes, oh, it's amazing. Okay, so I'm guessing the next question is least favorite book, right? Let me check. Of course it is. Of course it is. Okay, least favorite book. I mean, a recent one would have to be Sleepwalking by Meg Wolitzer, but I don't think I would consider that my least favorite book. There have definitely been a few that I enjoyed even less than that one. I think the main example that I can think about is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. We read that one for the Tea Leaves book club, and it did not go well for me. I absolutely hated that book. I thought it was so bad. So probably that one. That's the most recent one, I feel like, that I really didn't like. So we'll just go with that. Love triangles, yes or no? Again, usually I would say no, even though I think it was Victoria who pointed out something very true in her video, which is usually we have two people who are interested in the same person. So we have this bit of the triangle, but we don't have this bit. This bit. You know what I mean? Maybe. So yeah, it's usually not even a love triangle, which is a little silly if you ask me. But I would say just in general, I don't usually like them, because usually there's no reason for them to exist other than just creating some unnecessary drama, in my opinion. If we could witness some genuine, you know, tension and doubts about all of those love interests, and if there were actually high stakes when it comes to that whole situation, then sure, it could be interesting. But I don't think I've ever read a love triangle that I actually cared about. I don't think so, really. I might be forgetting something, but I'm not sure. But again, I do believe it can be well done if it makes sense in the story, if you actually can understand why there is a love triangle there. Because usually something else that a lot of authors usually do is, so when there are two main love interests, let's say, it is very obvious which one you should be rooting for, because usually one of them is just a monster and the other one is perfection. So why is it even there if the authors usually themselves are making us hate one of the love interests for no reason whatsoever? So I don't know, it's a weird one for me, but usually I would say I don't like them. Yeah. The most recent book you just couldn't finish. Do I have any recent DNA? Oh, I do actually. Not for the reasons you might expect though, because I would guess that usually if you don't finish a book, it's because you might not be enjoying it a lot. But for me it was for completely different reasons. I was actually reading this book for my Patreon book club, and just with everything going around in the world right now, I just could not bring myself to finish it. I couldn't do it. It's too much. And that book is The Eighth Life by Nino Haratishvili, and this follows the so-called Red Century. So it involves a lot of Russian politics and everything that came with that. It is extremely violent, it is brutal, and it is real. So the characters are not real, I don't think, but they are inspired by real people, and the book is of course inspired by true events. And since history is repeating itself, I couldn't bring myself to finish it. I'm sure probably one day I will, but right now I don't have the emotional strength that it takes to read a book like this one. So unfortunately this is my most recent DNF, but I'm hoping that one day I can finish it eventually. A book you are currently reading. Okay, I have it right here. Excuse me. Sir Jon Snow. So it's right here. Oh, look how pretty it is. Oh my gosh, this lighting. We've had some longer days now, of course, and I just cannot figure out this lighting yet, but okay, I think that's better. But a book that I'm currently rereading, actually, it is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, and I'm hoping to be done with this one very soon so I can finally continue on with this series. My experience this time has been quite different, actually, because when I read it for the first time, I still gave it 4 stars. It was amazing and I really enjoyed it, but it was a struggle for me to read it. It felt quite slow-paced to me. I didn't really care about a few aspects of the story, and I think that's also mainly because I was not used to reading fantasy books like this one. I really was not used to that, and so it came as a bit of a shock to me. I did have a hard time reading some bits of the story because it felt very dragging and like it was going nowhere. But right now, while I do still consider it very slow because it is a slow book, it is also a character building book, and I know just from reading this first book of the trilogy that a lot of things are about to happen in this world and to this character. This book has already made me tear up a little bit. I knew what was going to happen and it still got to me because it's too much, and right now I can just appreciate it for what it is, which is a great entry to this epic story. I mean, I'm sure it will be epic because so many people talk about this series, and not only the Farseer trilogy, but the entire realm of the Elderlings, I believe it's called, the entire series that Robin Hobb has created, this entire world, and I'm very excited to keep reading this one. So yes, right now I do have a bigger appreciation for stories like this one, and I just cannot wait to keep reading this series because I'm still in a big fantasy mood, even though I haven't been reading as much as I would like to lately because life is getting busy, but I'm excited. I'm very excited. Also, this tea is delicious. Oh my gosh, I just love Irish tea so much. But then again, I love everything that comes from Ireland, so there you go. Last book you recommended to someone. Oh, okay, I believe that must be Dreamer's Pool by Juliet Marillier, because I'm basically you know, pushing and really trying to convince Lucy, Sarah and Milena to finally read it. It is one of my favorite books. Okay, let me grab it because it's stunning. Okay. Oh, look at that, look at that. Oh, it's so stunning. It's so stunning. Oh, I adore this series. I adore this woman. This woman is Juliet Marillier, and she writes beautiful fantasy books. They are inspired by Celtic mythology and nature especially, and they have amazing, strong female protagonists with beautiful romantic plot lines as well, and this very tense plot because you never know exactly where the story goes, and it's so magical and whimsical. And look at this cover again. Oh my gosh. Isn't it the most beautiful thing you've ever seen? Yes. I love everything this woman writes. I've read this entire trilogy. This is the first book of the Blackthorn and Grimm trilogy. Blackthorn and Grimm are 2 of my favorite characters ever, and I want to be friends with them. I want to meet them. I want to live in the woods with them. I keep recommending this book even though I'm not sure any of them will love it as much as I do, but I think they will at least enjoy it. I hope so. So yes, I'm basically trying to convince all of them to read this. And then of course I want Milena to read The Lord of the Rings, so that's also another recommendation. Oldest book you've read by publication date? I have no idea. I mean, it has to be a classic, but which one? Which one? I don't know. Who's the oldest? How old are you all? I'm not sure. Wait a second. I mean, if we are talking about how old the stories are, I would have to go with all the Grimm's fairy tales, right? Because those are very old. But the book collections that I have with those fairy tales are not that old, so I'm not sure if it counts. The fairy tales themselves are for sure the oldest works I've read, I believe. But if we're talking about the book, maybe I'm not sure, maybe like one of Charles Dickens' books or any other Victorian novel. I'm not sure, maybe one of those, but actually I would have to do some research on that and get back to you, because I'm actually not sure. Maybe one of my children's classics as well? It's possible. I don't know. Do you know what's the oldest book you've read by publication date? I would love to know that. Let me know. I'm curious now. And now, of course, on the other side, what's the newest book you've read? I believe that has to be We Are Not Free by Tracy Chee, right? When was this published? Was it 2020 or 2021? Let's see. I think it is 2020, right? Yes, 2020. So I think this is the newest book that I've read recently. It is We Are Not Free by Tracy Chee. It was one of our other picks for the Tea Leaves book club, and this one was a success on my end, and I believe all of us enjoyed it as well. It follows a group of Japanese Americans, teenagers, during the attack on Pearl Harbor, and it is devastating, as you can imagine, but I think it is very, very well done. And if you are curious to hear all of our thoughts, I will link the live show in the description. But yes, this is a wonderful, wonderful book. Favorite author? Okay, the most recent one is J.R. Tolkien. So I'm gonna go with that because it's the most recent one, but it's not the only one. I have a lot of favorites. I cannot pick favorites, but yeah, the most recent one is for sure Tolkien. I've had such a fun experience reading all of his works. Well, not all of his works, but a lot of his works with Kira and Lucy. We've discussed a lot of them, and it has been wonderful, apart from, of course, The Lord of the Rings, which is one of my favorite things now. We've also read The Silmarillion and The Unfinished Tales and a poetry collection, and some of his other tales like Beren and Luthien and Children of Urin and everything. Like, it was such a blast reading all of those books, and I love all of them. So, of course, it is very fitting for this question. Buying books or borrowing books? So I do prefer buying books, just because I'm terrible when it comes to lending books to other people. I'm always scared. However, I will say I love buying secondhand books. I know it's not the same thing as borrowing, but I do love knowing that a book has its own history. I love imagining who its previous owners were, and whenever they have like little notes or writings on them, I absolutely adore that. But if we're talking buying or borrowing, then definitely buying. A book you dislike that everyone else seems to love. A book you dislike that everyone else seems to love. That one for me is probably The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. Unfortunately, I was very disappointed by that book. I don't even think it is bad per se, but I didn't find it good either. I was expecting something different from it, but I do have a lot of examples like of popular books that I just think are a little overrated, and I'm so happy that people love them, but they don't work for me for some reason. And I believe the best example out of all of them is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Everyone seems to be crazy about that book. Everyone loves it. And I'm over here like, it was fine. It was fine, I guess. I just really don't see the appeal of it that much. But I know there's a movie coming out supposedly, or is it a series? I'm not sure. I would still be interested in watching that. I think the story has potential, but the book, I didn't find it amazing. I didn't love her writing, and I don't know. I just don't seem to love a lot of those popular books that suddenly explode on BookTube. And I always feel a little alone here on my little corner, which is completely fine, of course. You do you love what you love, and that's great. But yes, I guess those two are examples. It's not that I disliked Evelyn Hugo, I think it was fine, but The Goldfinch, unfortunately, ended up being a bit of a disappointment for me. Bookmarks or dog years? This is a fun question, because if you had asked me this same question like 2 or 3 years ago, I would say dog-earing a book, never. And now, let's say I do it sometimes. Especially with non-fiction books. I don't know what it is. Okay, wait a second. I don't know why, but usually I tend to dog-ear more pages if I'm reading non-fiction. It's almost as if I can understand the information better if I dog-ear it. I don't know, it's a weird thing. Am I alone in this? Probably. But I do love bookmarks. I do prefer bookmarks. I have a little collection of them and I just love them. I think they're very cute accessories to your reading life and I just love them so much. So I do prefer bookmarks, but I have absolutely nothing against dog-earing books. So again, you do you. If it works for you, that's great. Why did I decide to sit on the floor today? I'm getting a little uncomfortable. It's fine. A book you can always reread. A book I can always reread. Pride and Prejudice, The Picture of Dorian Gray, Heidi by Joanna Spyri, A Little Princess, anything by Anne Bronte, anything by Juliet Marillier, The Lord of the Rings, of course, A Christmas Carol, I reread it every year, and also Letters from Father Christmas by J.R. Tolkien. I love all of them. They all have this very big rereading power over me, and I think I could come up with some more examples. Oh, actually, I do want to reread Mistborn eventually because I miss it. I miss it so much. I have been missing that world and those characters so much. So I would love to reread that. I don't know when because I have so many series I'd like to get to first. But I don't know. It might happen sooner than later. Can you read while hearing music? Absolutely not. Never. Because I don't know if it's because music is such a huge part of my life that I just cannot do both of those things together. Because if I start reading while listening to music, I will only focus on the music. I will try to hear what's going on and trying to analyze all the intervals and the melodies. And if it has lyrics, it's the worst scenario possible, but I cannot listen to any type of music when I'm reading. What I can listen to is anything else, basically. Someone can be watching TV or playing video games, I can still read, no problem. If people are talking over the phone or, I don't know, at a coffee shop or something, I can still read. But music, I just can't. Especially if it is on purpose. Like, I myself cannot put on some music while I'm reading. But of course, if I am sitting at a coffee shop or somewhere else, and if they are playing music, that's fine. But I cannot be the one who, on purpose, puts music on the background. I cannot do that because I can focus on the books. What I will do is to listen to some ASMR videos, especially when it comes to nature videos or Studio Ghibli as well, just with very relaxing sounds. I love that. But yeah, I know a lot of people can listen to music while they're reading, and I wish I could be one of those people, honestly, but I can't. One POV or multiple POVs? It depends on the book. I always say this, but I think if I were to say, like, just in general, if I prefer one POV or multiple, you know, I would think I would say multiple, but actually I think I prefer one. If it's really well done and if you really get to know that character and everyone around them very well from their perspective, I think it's fascinating, because sometimes with multiple POVs I feel like something is lacking for me. There's usually a character or two who don't get enough attention, or maybe the chapters just end too quickly and I was getting too invested in that specific POV and then suddenly it ends. But again, it can be done quite well, and when it is, I really enjoy it. Of course, one of the biggest examples is A Game of Thrones. I love this series and it has how many POVs? I don't even know. Here's another series that I really want to reread eventually. But it is extremely well done here and I absolutely adore it. But for instance, with Assassin's Apprentice, I really like that we are seeing everything from Fitz's perspective. So it really depends. I would say usually I prefer one POV, but not always. It really, I don't know, it depends on the story and on the author who's writing it as well. So I don't know, I guess that's my answer as always. And finally, do you read a book in one sitting or over multiple days? I wish I could read books in one sitting. Sometimes it happens if they are really tiny, like this one, or sometimes if the audiobook is short as well, then I can just listen to all of it in a row, but it is very rare for me to do that. I would say most of the time, 99% of the time, I read books over multiple days, because also usually I want them to last. I never like rushing what I'm reading, so I always take my time. I make sure to spend quality time with the characters and with the story, because I just love reading so much that sometimes I have to stop myself from reading to just take everything in, and it's a very lovely experience for me. So yes, definitely reading over multiple days for sure. The actually last question is to tag some people, but again, I just tag all of you, whoever would like to do this tag. I think it is quite fun, and I would love to hear your answers, especially a few of these, like favorite books, favorite authors, least favorite books, what do you think about cliffhangers, how many books are ideal in a series for you, if you do have that number. Let me know all of that. I would love to hear that. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. I missed filming so much. I'm really hoping to bring you more videos soon, other than my Agnes Grey reading vlog, which will be coming in a bit. And yes, I'm just hoping to upload more videos, because March especially just completely flew by. I was extremely busy and I don't know what happened, just time flew by and I didn't know what to do with myself anymore. But hopefully it will be easier now and I will be able to film a bit more, hopefully. So yes, thank you so much for being here, everyone. And again, let me know your answers. Let me know how you are. I really hope you're all doing very well wherever you are, whatever it is you're doing. I hope it is bringing you happiness and light and magic to your life. And I'm sending you all the love, a big hug, and I will see you all soon on my next video. Bye everyone!